Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to discuss internal features of the heart. The objective of these lectures are list the chambers of the heart, describe the internal features of the chambers of the heart, and differentiate between the right and left ventricle. So already you have discussed in the previous lecture regarding the external features of the heart and also the chambers that we have four chambers of the heart: right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium and left ventricle. This diagram is showing the anterior surface of our heart, and as we can see already in the external features you have discussed, this is the right border, left border, inferior border, and this portion is the apex, and just behind these blood vessels we have part of left atrium which is forming the base. So and the anterior surface we are not appreciating left atrium because of the presence of great vessels it is not appearing and it is just pushed backward. Only we can see some extension or appendage of the left atrium which is known as left auricle. So anteriorly we can see the right atrium and right auricle, major part of the right ventricle, part of the left ventricle on its anterior aspect, and in between them we can see the interatrial interventricular groove which contains vessels. This diagram is mainly showing the base of the heart which is formed by the left atrium and infra-posterior surface which is mainly formed by the left ventricle. So also on the other side we can see the right atrium and the entry point of the inferior vena cava as well as superior vena cava. So we have four chambers: right and left atria and right and left ventricles. Right atrium is almost anterior and left atrium is posterior forming the base, and the ventricles are anterior posterior in the lower part. So when we take a transverse section of the heart we can see the four chambers. This is the right atrium, left atrium. For looking at left atrium you have to dissect the great vessels as well. We can see the partial half of the left atrium, then we can see the right ventricle internal portion, a septum in between them known as interventricular septum, and then we can see the left ventricle. This is superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, pulmonary trunk, and ascending and arch of aorta. So these are the features which we can appreciate when we take a transverse section. So now we will go one by one chamber and talk about in detail. And here also we can see the right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle, and the pulmonary trunk. So we can see the structures when we take a transverse section, and this is interventricular septum. So we start with the right atrium. Already you have talked about that on the external surface of the right atrium we have a groove present from which is starting from superior vena cava and between the auricle, and that is known as lamina terminalis on the external surface. Now if we dissect out the anterior wall, what actually we are looking? We are looking the cut section of the right atrium anterior wall, and we are looking inside the right atrium. So this is the dissected or reflected anterior wall of the right atrium. And what we are looking? We are looking the inner side or posterior surface of the anterior wall, or the internal surface of the anterior wall. So this is a reflection. It is dissected out from here, and then this whole surface is reflected over here. So what we were talking about, that the groove which is known as lamina terminalis, just on the inner side of that we have a thicket band, a longitudinal ridge, which is known as crista terminalis. So what this crista terminalis, if we close this flap, it must be over here on the inner side. So this crista terminalis, which is longitudinal ridge, is actually a partition between the two parts of our right atria. The anterior part, which is this one on the anterior inner side of the anterior wall, is known as rough part, and inner side you can see the part is smooth. So the internal structure of the right atrium is divisible into a rough part on the anterior wall, and on the posterior wall a smooth part. So this crista terminalis is the demarcation between or partition between. So if we see here, from this crista terminalis or longitudinal ridge, the muscles are projecting out in shape of a spiral fashion or longitudinal fibers, making a network and appearing as rough. And this is what? This is our cardiac muscle, but this part of the cardiac muscle is known as pectinate muscles. So the part of the cardiac muscle which is forming the inner side of the anterior wall of the right atrium, we name it as pectinate muscles or musculi pectini. That is the rough part. Then, and this is the anterior wall. This is the posterior part. The posterior part or posterior wall of the right atrium is smooth, and mainly it is formed by the partition between or junction between right atrium and left atrium. So this wall is actually the partition between right and left atrium, and we name it as interatrial septum. On the other side, interatrial septum. So this smooth part has openings, as we can see here. We have opening in the lower part or inferior part of the right atrium for inferior vena cava. We have opening on the superior part as opening for superior vena cava. Then we have an opening for a structure which is known as coronary sinus. Three openings we can see, and all these three openings are carrying deoxygenated blood to the right atrium. Superior vena cava and inferior vena cava is taking deoxygenated blood from the body. That means from head and neck and part of the upper limb, the deoxygenated blood is coming to the right atrium through superior vena cava. Then we have inferior vena cava, which is draining the deoxygenated blood from the lower limb, pelvis, abdomen, thorax, and all the blood from these areas is draining through inferior vena cava. And as we know that inferior vena cava is lying down, so it is guarded by a valve which is known as valve of inferior vena cava or Eustachian valve. So this Eustachian valve is actually prevent the backward flow of the blood. And Superiorly, we don't need any valve because of the gravity, the blood can easily enter over here. So these are the two openings for the superior inferior vena cava for the deoxygenated blood from our body parts. Now, the heart, again a living tissue, is supplied by blood vessels, and the arteries are supplying the oxygenated blood, and the veins are draining the deoxygenated blood from the heart wall or musculature. So coronary sinus receives many veins from the heart itself, and ultimately that coronary sinus drain that deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. So that is the third opening, which is giving deoxygenated blood to the right atrium, and that blood is from the heart itself. The deoxygenated blood from the cardiac veins drain into the coronary sinus, and from coronary sinus it will go to the right atrium. Along with that, we can't appreciate or see there are multiple small openings are there for the veins which are known as anterior cardiac veins. The anterior cardiac veins drain deoxygenated blood from the chambers of the heart directly into the right atrium, but we can't see the openings over here. They are very small openings. Along with the anterior cardiac veins, we have the smallest cardiac veins or vena cordis minimi. Those veins are also draining the blood directly into the right atrium. So there are 5 openings for draining the blood. In other words, opening for the superior vena cava, opening for the inferior vena cava, opening for the coronary sinus, then multiple openings for the anterior cardiac veins, and multiple openings for the vena cordis minimi or smallest or short cardiac veins. They all drain deoxygenated blood into the heart. Superior and inferior are draining the blood from the body, and coronary sinus, anterior cardiac vein, and smallest cardiac veins are draining blood from the heart itself. Along with that, we can also see a big opening, which is the opening between the right atrium and right ventricle, and we can appreciate this opening in the right ventricle more uh, because from this view we are just looking the partial portion of the opening. So another opening is there for the blood which passes from right atrium to right ventricle, and this is known as right atrioventricular opening, or it is also known as tricuspid valve or right atrioventricular valve, which we are going to talk about in a minute. Then we can see on the this, as I have told you, this is the posterior wall of the atria, which is actually formed by the interatrial septum. So in between we can see a fibrous tissue over here. This all is cardiac muscle, and in the middle wall we have a fibrous tissue which is known as fossa ovalis, and its borders are elevated, projected forward, and we name them as limbus of fossa ovalis. So fossa ovalis is the fibrous tissue in the interatrial septum or the posterior wall of the atrium, and it is bounded by limbus of fossa ovalis, which are elevated boundary. Now what is this? This is actually the fetal foramen ovale. So in fetal life, or in next lectures, we will talk about the fetal circulation, because the lungs are not start their work till the time of birth. So the blood from right atrium directly passes into the left atrium. So here we have an opening in fetal life which is known as foramen ovale. So through foramen ovale, the blood passes from right atrium to left atrium. And in embryology you will talk about there are two septa known as septum primum and septum secundum, which are going to form this wall or interatrial septum. So in the embryo lecture you will talk more about it, and in fetal circulation lecture we will talk again about it, that how this foramen ovale closes. So just after the birth many changes are taking place in the circulation of the fetus. One of the changes that foramen ovale is closed and it is replaced by the fossa ovalis. So in adult body it is known as fossa ovalis, and in fetal life it is foramen ovale. So these are all the structures present in the internal part of the right atrium. We will repeat again. We have reflected this portion of the anterior wall over here, and on the inner side, just opposite to the sulcus terminalis, on the inner side we have a longitudinal ridge from where the cardiac muscle fibers are projecting in a spiral and network fashion, and we name those specific part of the cardiac muscle as pectinate muscles rising from the crista terminalis, which is the demarcation between the rough and smooth part. A smooth part is present on the posterior wall, and it is also known as interatrial septum. It contains the fossa ovalis bounded by limbus of fossa ovalis, and then the openings we have superior vena cava, inferior vena cava with its valve which is known as eustachian valve, then opening for the coronary sinus also bounded by a valve which is known as Thebetian valve, and we have a big opening, the right atrioventricular opening, guarded by a valve which is known as tricuspid valve. Along with that, we have a extension of the right atrium which is known as right auricle. It is given name auricle because it appears externally like the shape of the ear. That's why it is known as auricle. And the auricle on the inner side, if we can see, we can appreciate the pectinate muscles also. So anterior wall of the right atrium on the inner side as well as the auricle, they both contains pectinate muscles, and rest of the right atrium is smooth. So this is all about the right atrium. And here we can repeat again, the posterior wall of the right atrium contains the opening of superior vena cava. We have already discussed opening and valve of inferior vena cava, opening and valve of coronary sinus, fossa ovalis and limba of fossa ovalis. Along with that, we have also discussed that multiple openings are there in the right atrium on its anterior and posterior walls for the anterior cardiac veins and vena cordis minimi, which are directly opening into right atrium. And the anterior wall of the right atrium contains pectineal muscles and crista terminalis. So here it is a sketch which is showing the superior and inferior vena cava, coronary sinus, fossa ovalis, and the right atrium, and then opening into the right ventricle. So this is all about our right atrium. Now the second chamber we have is right ventricle. Now this is showing the valve which we talked about. Here we have an opening between the right atrium and right ventricle known as right atrioventricular opening, and this opening is guarded by a valve which is known as tricuspid valve, or also known as right atrioventricular valve. Now it is known as tricuspid because its valve contains three cusps. That's why it is known as cuspid. Uh, Tricuspid. Now we can see this part of the valve is known as anterior cusp of the tricuspid valve. Then here we can see the posterior cusp of the tricuspid valve, and one is facing towards the septum. This is known as interventricular septum, the connection or the partition actually between the right ventricle and left ventricle. So towards the septum we have the cusp which is known as septal cusp of the tricuspid valve. So we have three cusps, and these valve cusps are connected to the musculature of the right ventricular muscular tissue. So here we can also appreciate that the anterior wall of the right ventricle, even you can see the posterior part of the valve on the inner side over here and here, it is rough, and this rough part again have longitudinal muscle cardiac muscle fibers, and we name over there as trabeculae cornea. So previously in the right atrium we named them as pectinate muscles, and in right ventricle we name them as trabeculae cornea. Trabeculae is basically term, trabeculae means network or meshwork. So trabecular cornea is these cardiac muscles in the right atrium. And if you can see, few of the muscle fibers from the myocardium are extending upward, and we name them as papillary muscle. They are projecting like papilla. Papilla are actually, when we use the term papilla, papilla means projections, finger like projections. So these projections are known as, again they are cardiac muscles, but they are named as papillary muscles. We have anterior papillary, we have posterior papillary, and we have the third one, which is known as septal papillary muscle. So three papillary muscles are present in the right ventricle: anterior, posterior, and septal. And they are not single, maybe they are more in numbers, because these papillary muscles are giving attachment to a fine collagen fiber threads, which are act as in tendons, very fine tendons, and these tendons are the connection between the cusp of the valve and the muscles of the right ventricle. So these tendons are known as chorda tendini. So now we can say that we have the cusp of the valve, which are connected to the chorda tendini, and chorda tendini, fine collagenous thread like tendons, are connected to the papillary muscles anteriorly, posteriorly, and on the septal side. So we have three cusp and three papillary muscles in the right ventricle. The other muscle which are present on the inner side of the wall of the right ventricle, they are named as trabecular cornea. Another very important structure which is present in the right ventricle is, from the interventricular wall we have muscle which is extending from the septum to the anterior papillary muscles, and this is known as septomarginal trabeculae. This specific portion of the muscle which is connecting the septum with the anterior papillary muscles, they are known as septomarginal trabeculae. And another importance for this septomarginal trabeculae, that it contains moderate band. What is moderate band? That I will talk about in the last, about the moderate band. So just you have to memorize that right ventricle has a connection between the interventricular septum and the papillary muscle known as septomarginal band trabeculae, which contains moderate band. Now this is about the middle and lower half of the right ventricle. If we see the upper part, where the opening of pulmonary trunk is there, it is also guarded by a valve which is known as pulmonary valve. These valves are known as semilunar valve, as they are half moon shaped. Semilunar means half moon shaped. So they are half moon shaped structures, and they are three in number. So the valve is known as pulmonary valve, or also known as semilunar valve. Now if you can see just the area below the semilunar valve of the pulmonary trunk, we have a area of the right ventricle which is very much smoother, and this smooth part is known as conus arteriosus, or it is also known as infundibulum. So remember here one thing which is very much important, we have also seen in the previous right atrium, and we also appreciate in right ventricle and also in the other chambers, that the entry point or exit point of the blood into the heart, the area is always smooth. Like we have seen superior inferior vena cava, which they are near the posterior wall, which is smooth, so entry point was smoother. As the same way in the right ventricle also, this is the exit point of the blood. The blood from right ventricle comes, atrium comes into right ventricle, and from right ventricle it goes to the pulmonary trunk through this area. So this area is again smooth, so the blood can easily pass through it, and this smoother portion is known as conus arteriosus or infundibulum. So here we can see already we have discussed tricuspid valve has three cusps: anterior, septal and posterior. Three papillary muscles: anterior, septal and posterior, and anterior papillary muscle is the largest and most prominent, and trabeculae cornea are the rough muscular ridges in the wall of right ventricle. And along with that we can see this area where the pulmonary semilunar valve is there and pulmonary trunk is there. So the area just below the pulmonary valve of the right ventricle is known as infundibulum or conus arteriosus. And these are the cusps of the right ventricle uh, valve, and these cusps are connected to chorda tendineae, and then chorda tendineae are connected to papillary muscles. Now we have talked about septomarginal trabeculae, or the moderate band extends from the interventricular septum. In the previous slide we have seen that to the base of anterior papillary muscle. So we have a specialized system of the heart which is known as conducting system of the heart. In the next lecture of blood supply and conductive system you will talk more about it. So it starts from over here, which is known as a node, SA node, sinoatrial node, which is present just between the atrium and the superior vena cava opening. And then we have just at the lower part of the interatrial AV node, atrioventricular node, and then atrioventricular node divides into two branches which are known as right and left bundle branch or bundle of His, and right bundle branch passes to the antipapillary muscles through this septomarginal trabeculae. So in conducting system you will see the right bundle branch. So the importance of this right septomarginal trabeculae is that it contains moderate band, or means it contains the right bundle branch from the conducting system of the heart. The conus arteriosus already we discussed. The infundibulum, it's a cone shaped portion of the right ventricle inferior to the opening of pulmonary trunk, and pulmonary valve consists of semilunar cusp, one anterior and two posterior as right and left. So this is all about the right ventricle. Again we will repeat. We have conus arteriosus or infundibulum, then we have pulmonary trunk openings, a valve, interventricular septum, three papillary muscles, anterior, posterior and septal, connected with chorda tendineae, and those chorda tendineae are connected to the same name of cusp, anterior, posterior and septal. And the rough part of the muscle is known as trabeculae corneae, and the moderate band already we discussed, also known as septomarginal trabeculae. Now left atrium. The major part of the left atrium is smooth, and the rough part, or where we have the muscle, there is present in the auricular region. So this is left auricle, which we can appreciate on the anterior view, but this major portion we can only appreciate from the posterior view because it forms the base of the heart. So here we can see the smoother part, which is the major part, and the rough part, which is just at the auricle. So this rough part is because of the spiral arrangement of the muscle fibers of the heart, and we can also see the other side of the interventricular septum, which has the valve of foramen ovale and fossa ovalis area. And then we can see that the pulmonary veins are opening. There are four pulmonary veins, two superior and two inferior, are opening into the left atrium over here. And then the left atrium is connected to the left ventricle through an opening which is known as left atrioventricular opening, or guarded by a valve which is known as bicuspid valve. So it receives blood from the lungs through four pulmonary veins, two right and two left, and bicuspid valve, which is also known as mitral valve, having two cusps, and it connected to the ventricle through the opening which is known as left atrioventricular opening. Now the left ventricle, as we have discussed, that it is connected to the left atrium through left atrioventricular opening. Now here the valve is having only two cusps, that's why it is known as bicuspid valve, because it has two cusps only. So that's why one anterior and one posterior. So we name them as bicuspid valve, also known as left atrioventricular valve, and also known as mitral valve. Why it is known as mitral valve? Mitral valve is actually, its name is given because you know that in the churches there are popes, and below them there are bishops, and below to serve them they are cardinals. So there are different levels of preachers over there in Christians. So the cap of the pop is just like the shape of this bicuspid valve, and that cap is known as mitral. So this mitral word came from there. The cap of that pop or bishops are just like this cusp or bicuspid valve. So that's why it is also known as mitral valve. And it has two cusps. That's why it also contains two group of papillary muscles, anterior as well as posterior, and connected to the cusp of the valve to the papillary muscle with the chorda tendineae. The inner side of the left ventricle also rough, and again the same trabecular cornea is there. And from here the big vessel which is taking origin is our aorta, which is taking oxygen blood to the whole body, and it contains another type of semilunar valve which is known as aortic valve. So aortic valve or semilunar valve is there, again having three cusps, right, left and posterior over here. And the area which is just below the aortic valve is again smooth, like we have seen in the right ventricle, known as fundibulum. This area is known as vestibule of the left ventricle. So this is known as vestibule, which is a smooth area just below the opening or valve of the aorta, known as vestibule. Anterior papillary muscle and posterior papillary muscle, already we discussed. The chorda tendineae of each papillary muscle attached to both cusps, trabecular cornea are there. So that's all about the four chambers. Now we can see the difference between the right and left ventricle mainly. The most important thing is that if you can see the wall of the left ventricle, it is much thicker in diameter as compared to the wall of right ventricle. The reason is that this portion is only has to pump blood to the lungs, but this portion has to pump blood to the whole body. So that's why the wall of the interventricular septum and the wall of the left ventricle anterior part, it is much thicker as compared to the right one. Plus the other difference, right ventricle contains tricuspid valve with three papillary muscles, anterior, posterior, and septal. Left ventricle contains bicuspid valve with two group of muscles, anterior papillary and posterior papillary. Trabecular cornea are same on the both sides. The rough muscular part known as trabecular cornea are present in the right as well as in the left. Now the smoother part of the right ventricle is known as fundibulum, and the smoother part of the left ventricle is known as vestibule, which are at the higher levels where the great vessels are originating. So this diagram is showing the four valves: right atrioventricular valve, which is known as tricuspid; left atrioventricular valve, which is known as bicuspid or mitral; semilunar valves 3 and 4; third is pulmonary, and 4 is aortic. They both are known as semilunar because the cusps are just like the shape of half moon. That's why they are known as semilunar. Now, now we will discuss the fibrous skeleton of the heart. That this is a diagram which is we can see after removing our atria. So we have removed the atria and we are looking at the base, or we can say that we have removed the atria from this part and we are looking down toward the ventricular wall. So below this is the ventricle and this is the base of the atria, and we remove the atrial wall completely. So what we can see, we can see the valves present there. So this is also showing the arrangement of the valve. The most anterior valve in the heart is pulmonary valve. Just behind the pulmonary valve we have aortic valve in normal anatomical position, and just behind the aortic valve we have bicuspid and tricuspid. So most anterior is pulmonary valve and most posterior is tricuspid valve, and in the middle we have aortic valve. Now these valves are surrounded by fibrous tissue and we name them as tricuspid fibrous annulus, mitral fibrous annulus, pulmonary fibrous annulus, and aortic fibrous annulus. What are they? Dense collagenous fibrous tissue framework lies at the junction of atria with the ventricles. So this is fibrous trigones which are present between the aortic and bicuspid valve, known as left fibrous trigone, and between the aortic valve and tricuspid valve, this is known as right fibrous trigone. So this is dense collagenous fibrous tissue which is present here in between these valves. So these trigones are actually connecting the bicuspid valve with the aortic valve. So this connection is only for structural support. And over here we can also see the right fibrous trigone between aortic and tricuspid. This is the right side of the heart, this is the left side because we are seeing from the superior view. And along with that, each valve is surrounded by a fibrous ring, or also known as fibrous annulus. Annulus means a circle, fibrous circle. So a fibrous tissue is also encircling and forming a ring. So every valve has their own ring: pulmonary fibrous ring, aortic fibrous ring, tricuspid fibrous ring, and bicuspid fibrous ring. So double support we have the trigone in the middle, and then each valve is support surrounded by the ring-like structure. Now another important thing, that the atria and the ventricle are connected together by this fibrous skeleton, so they don't have any muscular communication between them except the conducting system, which you will discuss in the conducting system lecture. So only conducting system is connected with the four chambers, but here atria are what we have removed. They have no muscular connection with the ventricles because in between them we have this fibrous skeleton of the heart. So also you will appreciate that the muscular fibers of the heart or myocardium, they are originating actually from or attached to the fibrous trigones as well as the fibrous rings, and they are encircling down or upward in case of atria. So you can appreciate that the myocardium is connected to the trigone or this fibrous skeleton and the fibrous rings of the valves. So here you can also appreciate the rings for the pulmonary valve, for the aortic valve, for the bicuspid, for the tricuspid. You can also see the position of the cusp of the pulmonary as anterior, left and right, both are posterior. The most anterior valve is pulmonary. Behind pulmonary is aortic, having right and left as anterior and one posterior cusp. So they both are named as semilunar valves because their cusp are sort of half moon shaped. And then on the bicuspid we have only two cusps, anterior and posterior, and on the other side tricuspid we have anterior, posterior, and septal, and they are connected together by the left fibrous and right fibrous trigones. And this fibrous skeleton is giving origin to or connection to the muscles which are spirally attaching to it from the ventricle as well as from the upper part from the atria. This diagram is showing the valves of the heart in diastole. So the aortic and pulmonary valves are closed and the bicuspid and tricuspids are open. So I'm just showing you the diagram, but detail you will discuss inshallah in physiology, or maybe you have discussed this. And here in the systole we can see the pulmonary and aortic valves are open and bicuspid and tricuspid are closed. This diagram is showing the thickness of the left ventricle as compared to the right ventricle, and we can see or appreciate the interventricular septum. Now this diagram is showing bicuspid valve opening, and here the valve is open and here the valve is closed. So these are the papillary muscles. So when the papillary muscles are contracted, the valves are closed, and when the papillary muscles are relaxed, the valves are open. Now a very important point over here is that what these valves are doing actually, these valves are preventing regurgitation of the blood from ventricle to the atria. Already you have discussed maybe in the physiology. So they prevent regurgitation. Another very important thing, that what these papillary muscles are actually doing, they are not responsible for opening or closing the valves only, but mainly they are preventing the eversion of the cusp towards the atria, because we can see papillary muscles are, so this is ventricle and over here we have atria. So when the valves are closed, they close like this, so they will not evert. So what actually these papillary muscles are doing, they are contracting. As they are contracting, they taut or tighten the chorda tendineae. As the chorda tendineae tighten, the cusps are now aligned together and closed, but they are not opening up. Here you can see the valves are open, so the cusps are moving downward, so they are not moving upward, or eversion is taking place. So if they evert, the blood can regurgitate. So basically the main function of the papillary muscles contraction is that when they contract, they prevent the eversion of the cusp and ultimately regurgitation of the blood to the atria. So circulation, if we talk about the heart, this is the heart chambers. So important thing you have to understand is the right side of the heart is known as venous end, and left side of the heart is known as arterial end. So we have two types of circulation. We have systemic circulation and pulmonary circulation. In systemic circulation, what is happening, if we can see, the blood from the general body or the whole body is coming as deoxygenated blood to the right atrium from the lower limb, and also from superior vena cava from the head and neck and upper limb. So all the deoxygenated blood is coming from right to the right atrium. Now from the right atrium, blood enter into the right ventricle, and from right ventricle through pulmonary artery the blood enter into the lungs, which is a part of pulmonary circulation. From lungs the blood moves forward and enter into the, after purification, into the left atria through the four pulmonary veins, and then from the atria blood enter into the left ventricle, and from left ventricle the oxygenated blood is pushed from aorta to the whole body again. So this circulation between the body and the heart is systemic circulation, and this circulation with the lung and the heart is pulmonary circulation. So this diagram is showing the flow of the blood. So from superior inferior vena cava, the blood is entering into right atrium. From right atrium, blood enter through right atrioventricular or tricuspid opening into right ventricle. From right ventricle, blood enter into pulmonary trunk. From pulmonary trunk, it goes to the lungs. purify there and come back from lung through left and right pulmonary veins into the left atrium. From left atrium through left atrioventricular opening, blood enter into left ventricle, and from left ventricle through the aorta it enters into the systemic circulation and circulate into the whole body. So this is all about the internal structure of the heart. If you have further any questions, you can email me. Thank you very much.